Hey guys, another video for our Nature and Environment in Japan playlist. July, August and September we often get typhoons in Japan. So we have weather maps that look like this, with typhoons moving usually from the southwest to the northeast of the country, and they bring with them strong winds and heavy rain, as you can see here. Actually, earlier in the day it was actually stronger than this, and you can see that it's actually broken some bamboo off, snapped it off at the ground, which is pretty good going. Usually bamboo bends in the wind, so pretty serious winds required to actually snap it off, but there it was. But usually most of the damage that's done isn't usually by the wind as much as by flooding and by landslides. So as a lot of you already know, Japan has a good percentage of its land area covered with mountains, and in the mountains, or more specifically in the valleys, during heavy rain there can be flash flooding, heavy flooding, and also there can be landslides, and that's usually what does the damage. So houses that get covered in mud during landslides, or wash down mountains in landslides, and rivers coming up quickly and washing houses away and things like that. So if there is fatalities, usually that's the case. So if you're visiting Japan, pretty much that's the case. In typhoons, as long as you stay inside, you'll be pretty right. And the only places you're really at risk is in the valleys and the mountains. You've got to be careful up there not to get washed away. So inside the old houses, as you can see, when it really gets strong like that, really bangs around these windows and makes a lot of noise, and sometimes the water can get in through the frames. More noisy than anything else. As you can hear and see, which is the reason why the old houses and even the new ones, we've showed you a video once before that showed you storm windows, amemaro, and it's these things, storm shutters. So the old houses have them and the new ones do as well, usually. We did a video about that once before. I think it's on the Buying a House in Japan playlist, and this is what the scene, if you have a typhoon in the area, this is what happens. Everybody goes inside, closes their storm shutters. Quite eerie actually, being out and about when there's a typhoon going on, because all the storm shutters go up, so there's no windows, you know. All of a sudden it's all storm shuttered, everybody's all boxed in their houses. So being out on the street actually feels rather odd. Not all houses, but as you can see, most of them. So there's a good example, the old houses and the new houses with the storm shutters up. And the businesses as well, of course, close their shutters, protect themselves from the goings on. But people are very cautious in Japan. If there's a typhoon anywhere near, they all disappear. So even if it's not actually on you yet, if it's still an hour away or 2 hours away or 3 hours away, sometimes everyone disappears. So this is usually a very busy road, and as you can see, with the typhoon about, it had actually, the center of it had actually passed over at this stage, so it was still pretty windy and pretty rainy, but the center of it actually passed, so the worst was over. Sometimes they shut down the trains too, just for safety, of course. If there's trees blowing around and things, they have to be careful, so sometimes they shut down the railways while the typhoon passes, until they check the line, make sure it's all clear. And of course, being a bunch of islands, as Japan is, anytime there's typhoons anywhere near the ocean gets pretty interesting as well. So a bit of swells. Usually, obviously, this is a little harbour. Usually this harbour is like glass, but during this typhoon, as you can see, it was all picking up, particularly outside the wall. And those boats, a bit hard to see from this distance, but those boats that we were looking at there are all sort of bouncing off each other, bouncing off each other and bouncing off the wharf. That's because they're all, usually they just sit there perfectly calm, so they're all rattling around there and knocking against each other. So yeah, pretty wild by the coast. But yeah, if you find yourself in Japan when there's typhoons on, don't worry, just stay inside. and you'll be fine. And if you're in the mountains, just stay right away from the rivers, and listen to what the locals say. You know, they know the places that are safe to be and not to be. But it's not any reason to worry if you find yourself in Japan, you hear a typhoon's coming. They do go on about it being dangerous and it's scary and so on, but it's really nothing to worry about. Just stay inside. Anyway, here it was, typhoons in Japan. More videos coming soon.